Good morning. Welcome to our June Police Service Board meeting. It's a lovely day outside. It's good to see everybody. We'll get started here. Nancy's completed the attendance. We have everybody here today, which is great. I think everybody's got a package with them at their spot for the agenda and the materials. Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda at this time? If not, I'll seek a motion then to approve the agenda. Mayor Bailey, and seconded by Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? And that's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interests. Any to declare at this time? Seeing none. We don't have any delegations, petitions, or presentations at this time, so the minutes from our previous meeting on May 16th are in your package. Everybody's probably reviewed those ahead of time. If there's any errors or omissions, we'll let Nancy know, but at this time we'll seek a motion to approve those minutes, please. Member Verhey and Member Brown, thank you. All those in favor of that? That's carried. Any business arising from the minutes that won't be on our agenda today? None? Okay, great. Well, let's get right into it then with the Detachment Commander's report. And I'll turn it over to Inspector Quenville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. We'll get right into the report. Some additional notes in regards to staffing. We've had a couple officers that were successful with our Organized Crime Enforcement Bureau and have left Brant Detachment for positions with them. But we've also welcomed two new members, Sergeant Darren Vandertuin, who comes to us from Haldeman Detachment, and Probationary Constable Julian Cassier, who actually had quite an extensive police background working in France before coming to Canada. So we welcome him to Brant this past month. Our community mobilization officer reported that our MCERT worker attended 15 crisis calls during the month of May, and in addition, there were 15 COAST referrals for mental health resource follow-ups. There's been a number of very complex situations in relation to mental health crisis response this past month. PC Murphy also attended the Tim Hortons camp that happened mid-May as a chaperone for our grade 7 and 8 students. Just also worth noting, there were 11 people that volunteered from the OPP to run that camp with our grade 7 and 8 children that included 3 auxiliaries, uniform officers, and a civilian. It went very well and very positive feedback from the Tim Hortons camp. And it was a great opportunity to engage with youth within our community. PC Murphy also facilitated the online safety presentation that was presented in partnership with our Child Sexual Exploitation Unit. And we hosted our first emergency services baseball tournament on May 28th with funds raised going to our Special Olympics. Michelle Murphy assisted with coordination of that. She also facilitated a senior fraud presentation to the members of the Grand River Council on Aging. We also started some internal collaboration in terms of youth engagement ideas, and I hope to have more information to share with you in the coming months on that. Our statistics for mental health related occurrences for May, as you can see, are at 141 year to date, and highest in 5 years at this point in the year. So I had our analysts do some additional research on that, as I anticipated there might be some inquiries in relation to that. Approximately 40% of the persons involved in the mental health occurrences had additional recent police interactions. So it suggests we're often dealing with persons who have been involved in multiple occurrences with the police. Approximately 53% of the occurrences reported so far this year have occurred outside of regular business hours. What that might suggest is that calls reported after 5 p.m. come to the police because perhaps their additional services aren't able to be accessed outside of regular business hours. The other item worth noting is our brief mental health screener. So the document that we as police complete every time we have interactions in relation to mental health. 24% of those occurrences involved a person who is believed to be impaired by alcohol or drug as well. So it suggests that our persons dealing with mental health illness may also be dealing with some other substance abuse related issues as well. There are some addresses within the county that we go to on a frequent basis. So it's, like I said, there's been some really complex situations this past month that PC Murphy has engaged additional resources within the community to wrap around the people in need of or that are in crisis. The other notable items includes that there was 8 mental health apprehensions this month. This resulted in a total of 42 hours spent in the emergency department. So that does account for the 2 officers. Following our last meeting, I ensured that that data reflects the 2 officer response that's required for these type of occurrences. So 2 hours, 35 minutes was the mean time that officers were spending in the emerge department. Times range from 1 hour 5 to 5 hours, 5 minutes. In terms of our youth school resource officer, we still continue to engage with our students at our Catholic school board. I did have a meeting just last week actually with a representative from the Grand Dairy School Board. It looks like they're moving ahead with curriculum development and have asked for police participation in what that will look like for police to return to the schools. No projected timelines at this time, and as I indicated, curriculum development may take some time. So I've engaged our corporate side for that, because it certainly shouldn't be a brand specific curriculum. It will impact Norfolk and Haldimand detachments as well. So corporate is engaged with the Grand Dairy School Board at this time. The Community Services Media Officer reported on a number of social media posts during the month of May. As you can see from his special events and meetings, there were a number of activities going on throughout the month that PC Vitalis was engaged in. In terms of community engagement, the focus patrols, there were 2 of which that closed this past month and 2 that remain ongoing. Our officers are dedicated to spending time in those areas and enforcing the legislation when they see infractions. During the month of May, your traffic management unit also totaled 214 Part 1 charges for the month. Of note, so it's the average so far, Part 1's year to date for 2023 is 306 charges per month. So this past month, just slightly below that, but that's what we're averaging so far year to date, and 1,530 charges so far. Crime Stoppers, we had 8 tips for the month of May. In terms of our noteworthy events, we spoke about it last month, but you can see in a number of these events that our automated license plate reader system continues to provide information on suspended drivers and alert the officers as they're driving around. So that was the new technology that was installed in all of our cruisers here in Brant County. So a really valuable tool that's led to some really positive interactions in getting suspended drivers off the roadway. We continue to report on a number of impaired related offenses that have occurred throughout the month. A number of people charged within the county for impaired driving. Of note, the incident on May 13th, the operator of that vehicle was arrested for impaired and some additional criminal charges, including unauthorized possession of a weapon, along with 2 children were in the vehicle at the time of the offense as well. So also of note, on May 21st, while police were investigating another matter in Burford, a vehicle approaches the police, exited to inquire what was going on, only to determine that that driver was impaired as well. So they initiated an interaction with police while impaired, so they were subsequently arrested and charged with impaired driving. Trends and actions for the month of May. Violent crime for May was down just about 32% compared to May of 2022, and up just over 30% year to date. A decrease in the sexual assaults and assaults contributes to this decrease for May. Sexual assaults went from 6 in 2022 to 2 this year. Assaults going from 10 in 2022 to 7 this year. Property crime also shows a decrease of 23.5% for May, and there was a decrease in both break-and-enters and theft under 5,000s and mischief offenses. No changes year over year for drug crime activity for May. In relation to motor vehicle collisions, there was no roadway fatalities in May, and our personal injury collision shows a slight increase of just over 8% compared to May of last year. Property damage collisions shows a decrease of just over 24%, with only a slight increase, just less than 1% for all motor vehicle collisions for the year compared to 2022. Overall, vehicle-related property crime shows a decrease for May, of 34.6%. There were 9 stolen vehicles this month, the same number as May of last year. There was only slightly more recoveries during this period, and theft for motor vehicle occurrences was down, as there was only 1 report this month, and that's a significant improvement from May of last year, where we had 11 events. The mental health calls showed only a decrease for May of 40%, and year to date we are still tracking up. 911 calls were up for May, 116.7% compared to May of last year. Our alarm calls were down by over 60%, and domestic disturbance calls decreased only slightly in May by just over 3.5%. That is my report, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Encouraging news to hear about the Grand Erie District School Board. Hopefully we'll have some kind of official notice from the school board with respect to the school resource officer program, or however the new version of things will roll out to be. That would be great news to hear. At this time, any questions or clarifications we'd like on the report? Discussion? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, a couple things. Yeah. So first of all, with the mental health related occurrences, yeah, I saw there that we're up over the last bunch of years. So I just want to say thanks for you taking that a little bit step further to try and understand if there's anything in there. So I appreciate that. And I've always said that I think we've got the helps out there. So it's encouraging that you guys are looking at deeper to see if there's anything else we can do. So thank you for that. When it comes to the traffic enforcement, now do they use the, what is it, ALPR as well, or are those strictly speeding?
Through you, Madam Chair. They do have the ALPR system within their vehicle, so they may use that as a reason for a vehicle stop if it was to trigger an alert or a hit, but they may conduct other enforcement depending on what they find. So it certainly provides a reason to stop a vehicle, but it may lead to other charges depending on their investigation.
Okay, let me just, if I could, Madam Chair, just rephrase that a little. Would you suggest that the bulk of those are speeding charges?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, if I could just go down here. Ride events. With the number of ride events we've done thus far this year, like 216, that's awesome. What do you say, ride anytime, anywhere? Is that how it goes? I'm curious to know, of course, we read in our report, the impaireds, with these number of extra ride programs that we're doing, we can't really say percentage of impaired, but is the number of impaired drivers increased by more aware, like more being out there more? I'm curious to understand, and it's great that we're out there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm curious: is it catching more?
Through you, Madam Chair. Based on the data, we're not necessarily catching more year over year, but certainly it continues to be a focus provincially as well, because provincially impaired driving numbers are still on the way up. And we can see that it's still very prevalent here in Brant County. So RIDE serves a couple different purposes. RIDE can be very specific in terms of looking at the analytics and setting up in a location where we know we've interdicted and caught previous impaired drivers, but we can also set up in locations where we serve as a deterrent, just to your point that any time is ride time. So, you know, just to remind people that there's those enforcement opportunities anytime. So, but occurrences continue to occur, regrettably. So we're just trying to reinforce that messaging that we are always doing ride to interdiction.
Perfect, thank you on that. And if I could just take that one a step further, and is there any, and I don't want to put a lot more work in it, but I'm interested to know with these ride programs and such, how many people are caught without seatbelts? Because obviously that would be you know, when the car pulls up, the officer's going to look in the car. I'm curious if those stats are kept, or there's just not enough to worry about that.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I wouldn't know those stats. I'm not sure that they would ever be captured that way, because if they were at a ride event and then issued a ticket for something like that, the two just wouldn't necessarily overlap.
Okay. All right, that's fine. And one final one, if I could, Madam Chair, on page 25, where it's the patrol hours, the foot patrol hours, it looks as though we've got copied numbers again for the 2022-23 change. Percentages? Looks to be just pasted over.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I went through that data and it should be accurate, but I can double check it again, because it wasn't copied and pasted. It went through, but I can double check it, sir.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Not really. This is just a pretty straightforward report for this month. Next month, I'll have the 6-month statistics, so I'll go through in the more detailed analysis.
Great. Any questions on the report? Any comments? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment. First of all, great news so far in 2023 that things are down for the repeat responses. That's great. And for the summaries and recommendations, I like that idea of the quarterly basis thing, bringing the extra. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion on the report, thank you, Heather, for pulling that together, and we'll look forward to next month with the additional details. If there's no further discussion, I'll have a motion to receive this as well. Mayor Bailey, thank you. Member Verhey, all those in favor, and that's carried. Moving into 9.1 in your package, you'll have the first quarter Q1, January to March 2023 detachment revenues. So this is a credit memo that the County of Brant will receive in the sum of $14,114.48. That would this is for the services provided by the OPP that revenue comes back to the municipality for. Security checks, reports, fingerprints, and the like. So this is just for information at this time. In 9 point, unless there's any questions or discussion on that? No? Okay. 9.2, it went so well last year that it's backed by popular demand. The Emergency Services Golf Tournament, they're upgraded to a larger facility to get more golfers, so hopefully raise more money. It's being held Thursday, September 14th at the Walter Gretzky Municipal Golf Course in Brantford. Constable Piera is organizing it once again. I think the Fabulous Four from last year is looking to enter a foursome again, but anybody's welcome to golf. But I know the four of us are interested in doing that again. But today, what we're being asked to consider is sponsorship opportunities. Last year, we sponsored the event for $1,000, and I think we got the pop-up as a result of that, didn't we? Yes. At this time, we're looking for support. If that's something the group would like to consider to sponsor the tournament once again, all proceeds from the tournament are going to the Canadian Mental Health Brant branch for the Brant Safe Beds program. Appropriate given our discussions this morning and the needs in the community. So open up the floor for any kind of discussion or consideration of this request. Councillor Pierce?
I move that we do that again.
Seconder for that? Mayor Bailey, thank you. Any other discussion? So that would be the $1,000, Councillor Pierce? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. And if anybody else is interested in participating in the golfing, we'll need to let them know, the organizers know quickly, because it sounds like it's filling up. Also in your package, 9.3, is a response from Haldimand County with regards to our letter that we sent to the regarding to Minister Lecce about the school resource officer program and having it reinstated. I did have the opportunity to meet Mr. Boyko at the OAPSB conference at the end of May, and he was able to connect the name to the face, so that was nice. But he was thrilled that we took the initiative to write the letter, and they obviously have supported that as well. And they just felt that was they appreciated being brought to their attention and shared with them. And if there was other things, of course, down the road, to feel free to reach out to them and talk to them. But they're just getting going again, the Haldimand County group, with their appointments. Lauren here has only been the chair since January, been on the board since January and chair since February, I believe. At any rate, this shows the support for the school resource officer program, and they forwarded that on. And we appreciate Haldimand's support. We also sent it to Brantford, City of Brantford, and Norfolk as well, but I don't believe we heard back from either of those. Then in 9.4, interesting that the letter was sent to Minister Lecce, and we have an email response from Patrick Byam, Director, Safe and Healthy Schools Branch with the Ministry of Education, via email, and that's also in your package. I don't think he really answered our question in his email response to us, but did outline a number of things the Ministry of Education does to ensure safe schools, which, of course, we're not questioning that at all. We were simply trying to get the school resource officer program back into the classrooms. Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So we're not in camera, so I need to watch myself here. To me, this response is terrible. It holds no weight at all. In essence, what they're saying is, yep, we know we have a problem. We know we've got a problem in our schools, but we're really not going to do anything to help prevent it. We'll just tell you what's happened after it's happened. And if you read some of the statements they make there, they're absolutely saying, violence is a serious issue and not accepted in schools, and they go through these things and all these protocols they have, and it's great that they have these protocols, but every single thing they've put on there is for after the fact. And when we look at the school resource officers, 99 times out of 100, they were able to prevent these things before they even happened, just by having that relationship. So to me, when I read this, I was, honestly, I'm going to use the word appalled, because it's not worth the ink that it's printed with. And to me, it says absolutely nothing other than the fact that they're acknowledging a problem and doing nothing about it to prevent it. Just letting us know afterwards what happened, and very good that they have this model for the schools to follow if a situation happens. Again, it's always after it happens. So to me, this letter means nothing. Like it's. I'm going to stop right there. I'll leave it at that.
I share your frustration, and when I initially read it as well, I felt that they missed the point of our letter in the first place. The complete point of our letter in the first place was to get the school resource officer program back into the schools, and what they've detailed in their email is actually about incident response. And so it's the proactive versus reactive. So I think this is apples and oranges to me as well. And I'm not sure if the board would like me to respond to that effect or not, or leave it. It's up to the group. But Member Brown, you want to add in?
I very much share the concerns that both of you have expressed. I think this letter it's dancing around the issue. It's trying to answer something without answering it. There's one paragraph of 2 sentences that says that they don't provide the direction. They haven't answered our letter, and I think it would be wise to go back to them and ask them, this is what we're pointing out and asking for. And we would like a response to our questions and pin them down, my opinion.
We also copied that same letter to Lisa Darling, who's the executive director with the Ontario Association of Police Services Board, and she did mention to me that they would be bringing that up at their advocacy committee meeting. I don't know when that meeting was going to be held. It was after the conference. So hopefully that raises it as a policy issue within the OAPSB as well, because they've had similar issues with other school boards across the province. And she's committed to reaching out to me when she has some more feedback. And we also copied MPP Bauma on the letter. I didn't have any response or acknowledgement from MPP Bauma's office, but we can also follow up with him since it is a local issue as well. So what would the direction then be from the board, that you would like me to reply to Mr. Byam with our concerns that this doesn't answer the concerns that we outlined in our letter? We still have those concerns, and see where that.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
I agree with that idea, sending it back. But I'm wondering if we could, somewhere in that letter, obviously I thank them for what they sent.
Yes.
But reiterate the fact that all this stuff he sent is for after something happened, just to try and drill in that fact that, hey, we're like, to your point, we want to stop this before it happens, not after it happens, and figure out what to do. So maybe it needs to be more clear to them in that sense, but I don't know. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody's in agreement with that then, to respond? Okay. Don't know that, I don't know, maybe the squeaky wheel will get the grease somehow, but, and maybe there's some movement within the school board itself as well. I haven't heard that there's been a decision made with respect to the review process, so we'll keep our ears open for that as well, that this is the time frame that they were supposed to have the consultant's report back on the review, so maybe we'll hear something from the school board about that shortly too. Any other communications? I don't believe we have anything else in the package, but anything else Okay. We're moving along today. Updates, Council Pierce, anything from council that you'd like to update us on?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I guess the big overall thing right now, especially in Paris, but in the county, is there's going to be a whole bunch of construction going on. We were speaking of it this morning, and with construction, obviously, comes truck traffic, and appreciate the fact that depending on where they are, will determine potentially which routes they take. But there's been a couple questions that if we could, and not to put a focused patrol on or something like that, but just have a better eye out for the trucks that are going places that they shouldn't be. Again, like I say, it's going to be difficult because it's going to be Grand River Street North, it's going to be the south end, and with the roundabout up on Rest Acres, there's just a lot happening in a lot of different places. And I think with that, like I say, we understand that there's going to be more truck traffic. We just want to keep them to the routes that they should be on.
Construction always brings out frustration. So there's
does.
also that element
Yeah.
of that. So hopefully people will appreciate that the construction is important for the long-term needs.
And I understand, like I say, when you talk at GPSs and stuff like that, literally when I was coming down here this morning, there was an 18-wheeler coming down Mile Hill Road.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so again, it's one of the, and I understand you can't be everywhere at all the time, but I do appreciate the fact that there's been a lot of patrol down at the south end at that four-way stop, and it'd be interesting to see the number of folks that are caught there because they're not sitting there long and they're catching them going through that stop sign, so it's a perfect spot. But anyway, like I say, it's just been a couple councilors have told me or have asked me that with the pending construction, if we could just have an eye out for trucks. Thank you.
Anything else then from Mayor Bailey?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to the committee, I know that council was just a little bit confused about the alarms. So I think, Heather, when you do the more in-depth dive into the alarms, council will be happy. I don't know why council is confused about alarms and consistencies and how often they happen to very few people that are involved in all these alarms. So I think when Heather gets her report done, I think there'll be interest at the council table as to sort of explain it a little better. They seemed kind of baffled at the end of the discussion, I thought last time. So.
Great. That's everything, Councilor Pierce? Yep. Maybe, we'll see, not yet, but maybe there might be something coming up. OAP SB Zone 4, anything, Member Verhey, from you?
Nothing really to update. We've got a little time between the last meeting and the next meeting. I think it's in September. Just looking to bring some structure to the meetings where we can have a little bit more fruitful, proactive discussion. So right now, one of the topics on the table is the School Resource Officer Program, which is obviously a very timely topic, but we'll see if that's still relevant in September, just to get some feedback and some involvement from the other members on our Zone 4 board. But that opens up the opportunity for anybody to contribute ideas. So I have been asking more often now for people to come forward with things that we should be talking about at the zone level. That's all I have.
When is the next meeting?
I think it's September. I don't have. Is it
Through you, Madam Chair, I think it's September 22nd in Niagara.
in Niagara?
I don't believe we've gotten the minutes from the last meeting yet, so that's why I was.
No?
I just checked with Nancy and we haven't received
No?
them yet.
Okay.
And I know that the secretary knows it's to go to Nancy because I sat beside her in
Yeah.
your meeting
Yeah.
and reinforced what you had already told her about the email addresses.
The official point of contacts.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll just provide a quick update from the chair update. There's been quite a lot going on, actually. So I want to thank all the different groups that put on the bike rodeos. It seemed like Saturday, June 10th was the bike rodeo day in the county, which was great. There was one in Paris, and there was one in St. George, and I believe earlier in the month, Burford, or maybe it was Mount Pleasant. But at either rate, a lot of volunteers put a lot of work to get those together for the community safety, for the youth engagement, which we know without having the school resource officer, that's an opportunity to interact with youth. I know the Paris group was happy with their turnout, as well as the St. George group. So both probably planning to do that again next year. So thanks to all the volunteers for that. I've mentioned it a couple times, but I did attend the Ontario Association of Police Service Board conference. I flew solo. Unfortunately, Member Brown was under the weather, and that was in Niagara Falls. I was able to connect with the Norfolk Police Service Board, some of their members, and then of course the Haldeman, as I mentioned earlier, which was good connections with them. My understanding with the Norfolk detachment is their inspector has gone to Essex. Inspector Quimble will know more about that. I know her first name, but I can't remember her last name. So,
Through you, Madam Chair, the Norfolk Detachment Commander is now the permanent detachment commander in Haldeman. So they will be identifying a new detachment commander for Norfolk in the coming weeks or months.
and the acting one, I think, went to
interim one went to Elgin.
Elgin.
With a permanent position there.
That's
So
right.
there's
Essex, Elgin.
Yeah, there's an interim one there right now.
Right. So it was good to be able to meet with both of those two groups. There's some interest maybe in connecting together with our board, their two boards, and just talking about common issues, common challenges. How do you, best practices? How do you do this? How do you do that? So we'll look to arrange something along those lines down the road. The Police Service Board Conference, I think there's a couple of takeaways. It was a really good program, probably a really busy program. Lisa Darling's doing a really good job with the association. And so she spent quite a bit of time going over like some of the policy and advocacy work that they're doing, which has really ramped up from when I first attended back in 2019. So this is great news for us because they're doing a lot of work. They're preparing for whenever this new Police Service Act is coming. That's still the magic question of the day. They've got some funding to prepare for the training. As you know, we're all going to be required to do some training before we can even sit as Police Service Board members. So there was a lot of focus on some of those requirements. So for us, I think one of my takeaways was there's a lot of things that the new Police Service Board or Police Services Act will expect of boards. They have the Inspectorate of Policing, who some of you may remember was the former executive director of the Toronto Police Services Board. He's now the first Inspectorate of Policing, and he outlined which he did at our, that group outlined at our Zone 4 meeting, but he went into even more detail about some of the things that he'll be doing in his role and the oversight he'll have of police service boards, including OPP boards, in terms of what they do and their auditing and whatnot, which is good. But in order to be prepared, there's a number of things that the OAPSB is going to be working on to help boards be prepared with policies, procedures, a number of things that they'll have templates for. They'll be creating an app that all the police service boards can share who has a policy on ABC, and they can share their best practices within each other, which will be good. Even for OPP boards, we're going to have to be required to have a number of different, even something as simple as, even though we do it, a communications protocol has to be made into a policy. So there's a number of things, and I think Member Brown and I, when we first joined the Police Service Board, we asked, is there any documents or governing pieces that we need to be aware of? And I think at the time we worked with Councillor Gatward to talk about the need to develop this binder of resources with Nancy. And so I think that's been on the back burner through the pandemic, but I think now hearing all this at the conference, it's going to come back onto the front burner, and we'll have to be ready for that day. So more details to come. Once I get the conference presentation slide deck, I can share with you some of that stuff. There was also a really good presentation from Chief Steve Tanner from Halton Regional Police on car auto theft and the analytics that they've used and the work that they're doing. the number of, obviously car theft in our county is bothersome, but it's exponentially more bothersome in some of the larger urban areas, and the involvement of organized crime and the work that they're trying to do and where they're finding these cars. A container was found in Morocco with a bunch of cars, so they move. So there were some really good presentations, well worth attending, well worth the networking opportunities to speak with other boards. That was really where how do you do this? How do you do that? Was able to connect with some of the, there were some detachment commanders there, so maybe something to consider for a future year to have Inspector Quenville also attend. The detachment commander for Perth was there. The acting detachment commander for Norfolk, who's now in Elgin, is there. Was there. There was others is there as well, some of the northern ones. But it would be good because a good opportunity for maybe Inspector Quenville to attend, just because there's a lot of things that are discussed in terms of the role of the Police Service Board. A lot of time was spent, unfortunately still, and Member Brown can relate to this because this was a topic that we heard several times. There's a number of municipalities that have to amalgamate their police service board with this new Police Service Act. And there was just a whole bunch of discussion about how does that work. Right now, obviously, we're lucky we don't have to worry about that kind of thing, and we have the resources that we have. But for amalgamating municipalities, who provides the secretarial support, who provides the email support, who's paying for it, how does it get cost shared? There's a whole bunch of angst about all of that. So I'm just thanking our lucky stars that we do not have to worry about any of that stuff. We will continue on the way we do, but there's a lot of discussion around that whole process, and there's still no indication as to when this new Police Services Act is going to be brought into force. It's been passed, as you know, but all the different pieces of regulation under the legislation now are still waiting to be built and get royal assent. So there's still no indication of when that will happen, which is super frustrating because we keep getting told, be ready, be ready, be ready, be ready. And that was the common theme amongst all the police service boards is, okay, but then, we keep talking about when things are going to change. When are they going to change? So that we all know. So that was a very helpful conference, and I would recommend if anybody has time to do that as well. We've talked about the school resource officer and just kind of go ahead, sorry, Councilor Pierce.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Just something came to mind when you were saying that, no date. Do you think it's possible that they might be rethinking the whole idea? Because there's been I don't want to say controversy, but there's been a lot of discussion about the amalgamation of some of the boards and stuff like that, and what that will look like and how that will work. And you're exactly right. There's never been a date. It's coming. I'm just throwing it out there do you think it's possible that they may be rethinking the whole thing and potentially it's not going to happen? Or I don't know. I don't know what the vibe was at the conference about that.
There was no real discussion about, well, is it really happening? It was more the directions it's happening. Okay. Council had to put in a request for how we wanted our composition to be, and I believe council put in for an extra community member for 6 people. We were the anomaly in terms of that. Most people were either status quo, but we put in for the extra community. I don't believe we've had acknowledgement that it's been received, or council has, but I don't believe it's been approved per se. And we're no different than any of the other ones that have to amalgamate. So any of their potential plans that they've submitted 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whenever that was, have not been approved either. So it's just so much limbo. And so I'm glad that that's one thing we don't have to worry about is that limbo, waiting to know if you're going to be, Oxford has 5 police service boards that have to amalgamate to 1, which makes sense on one hand, but because we have the single tier, we don't have to. Thankfully, okay. I didn't get the sense that it's being rejigged. I don't know what the delay is in terms of getting it rolled out. It's probably a pretty comprehensive piece of legislation to make sure that they get it right. But
okay, no, I was just when you were just discussing that, I kind of thought, okay, no, thank you.
I mean, I can't imagine being a detachment commander and having to go to 5 police service board meetings and do 5 different reports for 5 different groups for the same detachment. That would be a lot. So if there's efficiencies, but yeah, so stay tuned, I guess, I think we're in good shape to be ready in terms of the composition, but I think we have some work to do to get ready in terms of some of the policies and procedures that they're going to expect us to have, which the OEPSB is going to help all the boards who are willing. I mean, you have to be willing to do the work, but we'll bring, as we have more information, we'll bring that forward to the board for consideration. We've already talked about the school resource officer, but there's been a lot of, as you know, lobby and advocacy work behind the meetings, in between meetings on this important issue. A lot of people that we've talked to support the position that we've been taking to try and have them reinstated. Inspector Quenville mentioned about the Special Olympics tournament. I was able to go out to Green Lane there for one of the days and support that and watch some of the Special Olympic athletes play ball against each other, and our Brant team was there as well. Working with Inspector Quenville, as you know, on the action plan it's due for renewal, so hopefully we'll hear some more about that shortly. You may, for those of you that are received it, we talked last month about the dispatch, but pretty pleased with, I think it came out like a couple of days after our last police service board meeting. So the spring edition of the dispatch is now out. It is available online on the county website on the police service page. It's available in hard copy for those that are watching the meeting at all of the different county offices. And I know it's, for example, it's in the St. George Arena. It's at the Gaukel Memorial Arena. It's probably all the different county locations. Yep. So if anybody needs a copy, I believe also that you can get on a email list that if you didn't get it mailed to you, you can get on a list that the county staff will be able to mail it. I just want to thank county staff for helping us with this partnership. It's been fantastic. Sarah with graphic design and Heather coordinating mailing and distribution and printing, and the other staff involved in the communications department. It's been a really good outreach piece, and looking forward to continuing. Had some really good feedback. I know Inspector Quenville's already got content for the next issue, but I've had a lot of good feedback from the community. So I'm glad to see it coming to fruition, and it's a good news story for us as a police service board. Just a reminder that we'll be doing an update, Inspector Quenville and myself and any others of you that are welcome to join us. Obviously, Councillor Pearson, Mayor Bailey will be at next Tuesday, June 27th council meeting, but we will be giving our semi-annual update. So if Member Brown and Member Verhey want to join us, I don't know what time we're on the agenda, but we will be giving the update that night. We've requested to be at a presentation. Inspector Quenville and I have also attended the Community Safety Wellbeing Planning Committee meeting. There's discussion about like next steps for this committee. What is it going to look like? What work is it? Is it work that staff will do? Is the committee going to still be involved? Prioritizing. A lot of the discussion was on measurement. Like, so we have the plan, but how are we measuring whether or not it's being met? Like the goals and the targets in the plan are being met. I believe they're trying to get another meeting set up for mid-July of the committee to try and maybe tackle one of the priorities and look at what some of the specific programming might be within some of those programs, priorities, excuse me. The barbecues at the detachment, I sent out those dates. If you're able to attend, if you could please get back to me so that we can let the detachment know for numbers, what everybody can be expecting. So we've got the 4 set up for the 4 different platoons. If you need me to resend those dates out, I can. And I think I'll leave it at that. It's been a very, very busy time. I know it has been a busy time in the detachment as well. Unless there's any questions or clarification on anything I've talked about so far. Okay, that's great. Is there, oh, and lastly, I should say that I've reached out to Brant East with our terms of reference draft, and have also reached out to Brant North, and will be reaching out to Paris as well to get their feedback. So hopefully we'll have some feedback to bring back for the next board meeting on the draft terms of reference that we reviewed previously. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Any in camera? I don't believe. Today's the quick meeting. It's 10 to 10. This is good. We've all, of course, Nancy reminded me, this is going to be the big one now. This is the harder one. Next meeting date is obviously Tuesday, July 18th, but we need to decide our September meeting dates and onwards, because as you know, council changed their calendar, so our third Tuesday gets shifted. I believe Nancy did send out a kind of a poll, and Inspector Quenville and I get the gold stars for replying to the poll, but and probably others are available whenever. So the options that were sent out were the moving to the fourth Tuesday of the month, moving to the third Thursday of the month, or moving to the fourth Wednesday of the month. Personally, for me, Wednesdays are not an option, so I already have board meetings on that day as well. But fourth Tuesday and third Thursday can work. The sooner we get this figured out, the better, because if it's, some of those dates are already in conflict for me, for my calendar, so I need to, my preference would be the fourth Tuesday, personally. I don't know what others think. Councillor Pierce is nodding his head.
Thanks, Madam Chair. It doesn't matter to me in essence, but that would be our council night. But as long as it's 9 a.m. in the morning, I'm good with it.
Member Brown?
I'm flexible and can adapt to any of the dates. I thought the third Thursday may be preferred, in as much as it would give us time if we had something that we wanted addressed at council, we would have that. We're not the same day, we're a week ahead or a few days ahead.
I hear where you're going there, Member Brown, but if it was something, it would have to be turned around that day and put to council to be on the agenda, because it would have to be there by the Thursday.
For the Friday.
For the following Tuesday.
For the following. So even though, so it's still tight either way.
Yeah, so.
Member Verhey?
I'm flexible, doesn't matter to me.
Mayor Bailey? Okay.
I'm just looking here, but I have meetings most days, morning and afternoon, but I do have a calendar right here without bothering Spencer. I have nothing. Yeah, Thursday's better than the Tuesday, just because I meet with the clerks and things on Tuesday before council. But doesn't really make any difference. They'll make it work for me, I'm sure. Thursday's better. So I can be flexible too, I think.
Okay, so we've narrowed it down to the Tuesday, fourth Tuesday or third Thursday. No preferences at this point. Flexibility. So we'll just double check with the attachment staff, and we can, Nancy and I can confirm if everybody's okay with that. We'll follow up with an email, and then Nancy can get the calendar appointments out, and everybody can get them into their calendars if that's, unless there's any absolute dates on this that don't work for anybody. Heather?
Just one quick thing. I know the third Thursday in October is just the one day, but it's going to be an issue for probably a number of us, because there's the annual EOC exercise that day. So probably Andrea and myself, the mayor, would be involved in that.
That was a date that was an issue for me too. So, and not because of that, completely.
Just that one day. It's not in general. It's just that one third Thursday.
So if we went with the third Thursday, for example, that particular day would have to be rescheduled just because of that. Okay. All right. So Nancy, Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So, and I know you're going to discuss this with Inspector Quenville. Would it be easier for you if it was the third Thursday rather than fourth Tuesday?
Madam Chair, it doesn't matter. It was just what we had originally discussed, and Nancy and I discussed at the beginning. The first 2 weeks are trickier because then I won't have my stats available. So whether it's the third week or the fourth week, it doesn't matter whether it's the Tuesday or the Thursday. It was just not closer to the beginning of the month.
Okay.
Tuesday.
It'll be a T. That's right. It'll be a day that starts with a T. All right, Nancy and I will wield the powerful decision of which day it'll be. If it is the third Thursday, then obviously the 19th would have to be rescheduled for another date. And then we'll get that sorted out, and then Nancy can send out the calendar appointments. If there's nothing else, this is probably our fastest meeting in a very, very long time, but that's okay because we're all busy people. If there's nothing else, then we can adjourn. 9:56. Everybody have a great day.